Okay, having a chance to go through here, there's probably, gosh, 150 graves, maybe here, many unmarked, probably about 40 I would say. There is the north side of the Primitive Baptist Church. I'm standing at the north end of the cemetery, looking down towards the south end, and it drops off into a big cascading hill. Very pretty. We're in the dead of winter. It's January 27th. Still is real pretty around here, but I bet it's really pretty in the summer and spring. What we're looking at is, these folks are probably not related to us. All of these folks right in here on this little knoll are definitely, well, mostly all Jacksons, and there are some interspersed throughout. Some of these are pretty neat to look at. These tombstones go all the way back to about 1800. Don't see a whole lot here before then, and that kind of coincides with the push down from Virginia at that time. To give you an example of who we're looking at here, there's the Big Daddy. That's the guy we came to find, John and his wife Militia, and John was born in 1815 and was the first son of the original John Jackson that moved out of Virginia. His dad is either here in this cemetery or in Wilkes County somewhere. Like I said, there's a lot of unmarked graves, so it just kind of depends. There's just a lot of history here. I don't even know really where to start. Dr. Franklin Jackson is one of Tom's brothers. Tom was the first guy to move from Georgia down to Bremond, Texas. And there was Tom, John, Perry, which moved up north, up gosh, somewhere close to Upshur County or Limestone County. I can't remember off the top of my head. And there are some other brothers and stuff like that too. Dr. Franklin Jackson, don't have any reason to believe he was a doctor. He was named Doctor, as D-O-C-T-O-R, Franklin Jackson, when he was born. And here they have it abbreviated like he was a real doctor. But in any event, he was born in 58 and was a younger, or 56, was a younger brother of Tom. Died in 1928, year before the Great Depression. Sally Childs was his wife. Sally Childs Jackson. You can kind of see here. Coming up to this little area, here you have J.N. Jackson, born in the 1870s. Our folks were already in Bremond in the 1870s, so these are not us. There's a George Jackson. But they are probably brothers and sisters and cousins of our family. The name Minnie, oddly enough, comes up many times. Let's go to some Civil War era Jacksons. See Ruby, Minnie G. Jackson. There's an infant of Minnie Jackson. So all of that right there, those 3 or 4 stones are a family. Look over here, so William Jackson. William was one of Tom's brothers. William was born in 47 and died in 26. There was his wife, Martha Hammock Jackson. Hammocks and Jacksons are closely related. I have a lot of people that are looking for her. I'm glad I found her. Over here, here's Daniel Jackson. Daniel was also probably one of the brothers. He was born in 1850, about 10 years before the Civil War. And his wife, Elmira Childs Jackson. She was born in 54 and died in 31. They were married in 1874. I'll get to John over here in a minute. Got a lot to say about him. Like I said, John's who really came here after everyone else. It's just a plus, and there are lots of pluses here. Lots of unmarked graves, like this one right here. You can tell where somebody's buried. It's probably an infant, because that's what an adult looks like. That's the infant. Pretty small. There's also a caved-in grave right there with no headstone. There's a foot marker next to it, but may belong to the people right next to him. It's hard to say. This is Minnie Spear Jackson. Her name comes up a lot in our Jackson history and was married to Edgar A. Jackson. She was born in 73 and died in 16. He was born in 71 and died in 16. They died a month apart. I don't know why. Let's see. Memory of Pauline Jackson Kitchen. So she was a Jackson maiden name. 1906 era. She died in, let's see, 1984. Martha Louise Jackson died in 1918, so she was just a young one. That's probably her sister right there. And this is probably her parents, which is Edgar Jackson, Not familiar with him. And there's another one, Bernard L. Jackson. Let's see if I can get a better look here. Born in 24 and died in 2003. So his wife is still alive and still is aware of this cemetery and will probably be buried here. She's probably somewhat local. Let's see, Mary Lou Spear Jackson. Get a better look at some of that. Walter Jackson. All of these folks were born well after we came to Texas. You look at some of these guys, are just amazing. Like this one. This is one of the largest grave sites in here. George Jackson and Dolly King Jackson. I've seen that name also. Don't know a lot about her. He was born in 59 and died in 1940. She was born in 65 and died in 1946. Nobody in this little space right here that I can tell. There's another Jackson, and that's Thomas Elmo Jackson, born in 03 and died in 84. And Minnie, oddly enough, comes right back up, born in 05 and died in 91. There's lots of Minnies. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. This one is who we were after when we first came down here. This is the original John Jackson. He is the son of the original guy that moved down here from Virginia in Culpeper County. And they moved here about 1797 or 1798 over in Round Oak, which is about 3 miles away, and probably lives somewhere on Jackson Road out there. He is the oldest person that I know of that is in here, and he died in 1868. That's a Jackson anyway. He was born on January 3rd, 1815. His wife Militia, you'll see her name spelled a million different ways. This is the correct spelling according to this. She was born in 1820 and died in 1886. And it is fenced off. It's wrought iron. The gate's broken up a little bit on it, but a relatively new headstone. And it has a fresh flower arrangement on here too that's put here for somebody. I would suspect that it's probably 4 or 5 years old. Very interesting. That'll give you shivers to even be around it. These two, I'll have to do some research on, were buried there at their feet, and I suspect that one of them is D. Jackson and one is M. Jackson, just have an initial on them. The reason why, these are all their kids. Joseph, Lula, Kitty, Thomas, and Otis. Nice name. I've also seen the name Joshua Jackson, which comes up from time to time with people searching different records. And this is Joshua's grave site. And it said he served in Bravo Company, 12th Georgia Infantry, and died in 1862. Now, I'm not familiar with the Joshua Jackson. Gosh, what was his name? There was one of the brothers, one of Tom's brothers that was older, that was killed. And nobody, well, people know who he is, I just don't remember his name. Joshua is not him. And he was killed in 1862 as well. These two may have been killed at the same battle, and I can't remember the battle off the top of my head. His other brother was killed, not killed. His other brother was John Jackson, and John Jackson was taken prisoner during a surrender at Appomattox with General Lee. Joshua does exist, and I have photos, and I have some contact information for his relatives that have been looking for him for a long time. Some of these areas are pretty well cordoned off. One surprise is there are quite a few Jacksons and other people that were part of the woodsmen of the world. I don't know if you can see it on this video, but this is a kind of like a tree trunk. There's another one right over here. Before we go too far, there's Mary Green Hammock. We're also related to the Greens and Jacksons pretty closely. There's a woodman of the world headstone. That's from Joseph B. Maynard. Not closely related to us. Let me give you a good example of what one of these looks like. This one is not one of ours, but going from bottom to top. They're pretty impressive. And one of the fanciest headstones out here. This one is from J.W. Jackson, born November 4th, 1886, and died June 4th, 1917. And you can see how fancy that is and ornate compared to a lot of these. This is the infant twins of Mr. and Mrs. G.W. Jackson. One of them was named Cecil and one was Silas. And those were born 1909. One of them died April 16th of 09. The other one died July 14th. Pretty close together. Let's see, none of these guys are related to us. This is the Maynard crew. They have lots of graves here. More Maynards. Lots of Pippins in this graveyard. I'm going to break over to another video right quick.